Exactly. This is our introduction to our series, How to Get the Send in AKC Fast. FAST stands for 15 and send time. I thought it just meant you were supposed to go fast. But the 15 is the 15 numbered obstacles and jumps that are available to take in a fast course. You take the numbered jumps and obstacles, that's 2 through 10, and that's 9. And then there's a maximum of 6 one-point jumps you can take. So you take the 6 and the 9, and you got 15, and that's your 15. The send, well, that's the distance challenge that we'll be talking about in this series. And of course, you have a time limit, I think about 32 seconds at the master level. That term fast does not really describe exactly what's happening on a fast course. For one thing, you don't really need to be going too fast. And I say this because I want to emphasize to you to take your time when setting yourself up to execute the send. Most of the time you need to develop some speed to get momentum, so when your dog is leaving you going into the send. And oftentimes you need to get the exact right angle on the way in, and sometimes it takes a couple of seconds to get an exact right position to have your momentum and your angle going into the send to maximize your chances of success in the send challenge. I sometimes kind of go out of my way and spend 2 to 4 seconds just setting myself to execute the send. And as a result, I've done pretty good there. This is my Anna. She's by no means a perfect dog. She's a rescue. She's a mixed terrier. We have very few trained skills, but we work well together. And she's got a total of 100 master fast cues. And that's not from training, that's just from understanding the techniques I'll be talking about you today. Now, although your dog need not be perfect, there are some characteristics that will help you be a better fast person. The first is that your dog must have a certain level of speed so you can build up momentum, so when they enter the send, they can keep going on to go to the first or second obstacle. The second thing is they need a certain degree of obstacle focus. Now, obstacle focus, I think, is just the built-in desire to want to take jumps and obstacles. And although we all kind of know what that is, here's a very pragmatic example. Okay, so you're going along with your dog, you just took a jump. Now the jump is parallel to you, and the dog is maybe 4 to 6 feet away from you, and not in its path, but close to its path, there's another jump. Now some dogs will see that jump and say, well, I'm going there, and they turn and they take the jump no matter what you say or do. That's a very high level of obstacle focus. Sometimes you could say, turn your shoulders and your arm and say go, and the dog is going to then turn and take it. And that's a very good level of obstacle focus. And if your dog is going to stick by you and not really desire to go and take jumps like that, you're going to have a hard time in fast. Now, if your dog is not so fast and doesn't have a high degree of obstacle focus, the techniques I'm going to show you here might help maximize your chances of success. But still, it's better to have a kind of fast dog with a certain level of obstacle focus. Now, when you're doing fast and you're going for the send, there are 3 basic things you need to do there. First is you need to get your dog in the send, and there are 2 basic ways to do it when you're going fast. The first is straight into the send. You see the line there? They're going straight in. That's the send, the straight in send into the send. The second is more like a lateral distance kind of entry into the send, and that's when you're developing your distance on the way in, or before they get into the send, kind of coming in from the side. Now, there are a lot of similarities between those 2 entries into the send, and a lot of the entries that you're going to have are going to be something in the middle. But I'm going to talk about these separate, and with the understanding from both those methods, you're going to be able to handle any kind of send like these or everything in between. There are also some kind of entries that don't require a lot of speed, more technical entries. We're going to talk about some of those too. I certainly can't talk about all the possibilities, but I can show you a couple of them and how we've dealt with them. The second thing is, once they're in the send, you have to keep them out there or push them further out there. And hopefully you set your entry in such a way after they take the first jump that their momentum landing from the first jump is going to lead into the second one. That's the point of trying to get the correct angle. But sometimes you need to cue them to keep them out or to push them further out, and we're going to be talking about that too. Now, while we're doing the second and third jumper obstacle in the send, there are some special situations we're going to discuss, particularly tunnels. Anybody who's done fast know that tunnels play a big part in sends, and there are lots of little tricks you can do to be better at that, and we'll talk about that. And then finally, you need to bring the dog out. Now that's the easiest part because the dog is coming back to you, and it's much more natural for a dog to come back to you than to send them away from you. Okay, that's the 3 things you have to do. We're going to talk about all of them in the next maybe 8 or 10 lessons. That's what my plan is. The plan is to make these lessons like about 5 to 8 minutes long, teaching you a particular skill on each one that you go out and practice. So it'd be a really good idea if after each lesson you take your dog in the backyard or to a park with everything and see if you can do what we've talked about, because we're going to be building from one to another. It's going to be all related. Build one skill, we come to the next lesson and you work on that one as well. And that way, if you want to come back to something, you won't have to scroll through a whole video. You'll just can pinpoint by going to the lesson that addresses what you want to look at later. Okay, that's it. Next time we'll be talking about the send into the send, and don't forget to cue more.